In today's video, we are going to review Erikson's stages of psychosocial development and talk a little bit about how it relates to occupational therapy. Plus, at the end, I'll give a quick visual breakdown with some memorization tips that will help us remember these stages. Hi, my name is Arno. I'm a third-year occupational therapy student. Welcome to the OT Minute. Erikson's stages of psychosocial development is extremely well known and helps occupational therapists better understand normal psychosocial development and occupational meaning for individuals depending on whatever life stage they're in. The crux of Erikson's stages is the concept that at each stage in life there are these innate psychosocial conflicts that must be resolved in order to develop psychosocially. If a person fails to achieve these milestones and overcome these internal challenges, it leads to negative outcomes in a person's development. Since Erikson's theory considers the whole lifespan, it fits into occupational therapy's consideration of the temporal context. This is particularly evident when using the Psychology of Human Performance model to guide the OT process. You can click on the info card or find the link down below if you want to know more about the EHP model and how OTs think about the temporal context in the OT process. It's also worth noting that just because Erikson's life stages are generally associated with certain age ranges, OTs use their own clinical reasoning to decide if a person is truly developmentally at that stage or not. If you want to know more about clinical reasoning and how OTs think, I also have a video on that which I will post down below, or you can click on the info card. All right, let's dive into the stages and talk about what the stages are and some simple ways that occupation relates to each stage. The first stage of psychosocial development is trust versus mistrust, and this is for infants and children under the age of 2 years old. Erickson theorized that the main conflict psychosocially is a conflict between whether or not people can be trusted. Another way to state this crucial question when talking about infants and toddlers is that they're essentially asking, can I truly trust my caregiver? If a child doesn't feel supported or doesn't have a social context that is supportive, and the child constantly is in a state of fear and anxiety, it can have significant negative effects on their psychosocial development during the stage and can lead to mistrust, according to Erickson. This leads us to the importance of occupational therapy at this stage of life. Occupations between the child and the caregiver are essential for building trust, including occupations such as play and feeding, which helps to foster the caregiver-child relationship in order to provide a sense of safety for the child. The second stage in Erikson's theory is autonomy versus shame and doubt, which is generally understood to be between ages 2 to 4 roughly. If a child has developed a sense of trust by the second year of life, the theory says that the next internal conflict will be between whether or not the child will feel like it's okay and safe to become more independent. This is the age where kids have a pretty significant increase in their independence, particularly in ADLs such as toileting, dressing, and feeding themselves. If these types of skills aren't mastered, the psychosocial outcomes of this stage may be a sense of shame because they're not able to do these things independently like their peers. This can lead them to doubt their self-efficacy. OTs can help promote age-related independence in the important ADLs such as toileting, dressing, and feeding to help facilitate their autonomy in these occupations, therefore helping their psychosocial development. The third stage in Erikson's is initiative versus guilt, and it corresponds to ages about 5 to 8. So the idea is that now that they are a little bit more independent and can initiate and manipulate and explore their environments more and more, the next internal conflict is going to be, is it okay for me to initiate and explore and do new things? At this age, kids are exploding with development, including increasing social relationships, the ability to use a variety of tools and toys, and they're being increasingly creative in their thinking. If a child doesn't feel like they can initiate, manipulate, and explore their environments more and more due to repeated failed performance or maybe excessive negative feedback from their environment or caregivers, or maybe just a lack of opportunity, a child can then begin to feel a sense of guilt because they're not sure, is it okay for them to initiate actions without help or without explicit permission? If they've had repetitive and significant negative experiences, this will contribute to that overwhelming sense of guilt or a sense that I can't initiate or do things on my own. Now let's move on to the fourth Erikson stage, which is industry versus inferiority, which is roughly ages 9 to 12. During these years, children become increasingly involved in out-of-home activities such as school, city sport leagues, or clubs. This stage relies heavily on the importance for the child to feel like they are competent in the skills that their environments demand from them. I simplify the key question for kids in this age to be, can I keep up with peers and feel industrious. A simple example when thinking about this stage in Erikson's theory is a child who might be part of a soccer league. Their sense of competence on their team is likely directly correlated to whether or not they feel like they are participating in a successful way, such as passing the ball, scoring, or defending on par, or at least reasonably close to their peers. If they don't feel like they are, then they may feel increasingly inferior compared to their peers. If this child is underperforming or struggling to feel industrious in many areas of their life, this sense of inferiority may become more and more pervasive. Disability can impact performance and participation, so this is an important thing to consider in OT. How can we help kids be and feel more industrious in their occupational performance and participation in this life stage? As children become adolescents, which is roughly ages 13 to 19 in this model, the psychosocial conflict is between identity versus role confusion. If a child feels industrious, then the next goal, according to Erickson, will be establishing a sense of identity. The question that a child might ask subconsciously at this stage is, who am I? Social relationships naturally is an important aspect in these years. Teenagers actively seek independence from parents and their family identity and increasingly look for acceptance in friends who help affirm their personal and this new social identity. Some adolescents may jump between cliques or social groups until they find a group where they belong. By the end of adolescence, if a sense of identity is not established, role confusion may be the outcome, leading to a poor sense of self. OT uniquely addresses social participation, school performance, and leisure occupations, which help kids explore their sense of identity. For example, helping a child with ADHD who may have poor social skills and sensory differences participate in a desired activity such as being part of a school band gives a child the opportunity to try out a personal and social identity, being a band member, thereby helping his or her psychosocial development. The next stage is early adulthood, ages 20 to 39. Here the main conflict is between intimacy or isolation. Intimate friendships and romantic relationships are significant achievements in this stage of life, and occupations like work, education, and leisure, among others, help to facilitate opportunities to build these types of relationships. According to Erickson, if a person struggles with forming intimate relationships and friendships at this stage, an individual will be increasingly isolated. Another way to state this internal conflict at this stage is that a person's asking, can I love and can I be loved? Isolation can have significant mental health and occupational repercussions, so OTs can help individuals with disabilities in a wide range of ways, including helping individuals achieve better work performance, improved social skills, and increased participation in social and leisure occupations. As we move on to middle adulthood, ages 40 to 59, the generativity versus stagnation stage is the main conflict that individuals are experiencing. At this stage, a person is seeking to be a productive member of society. They want to contribute things to those around them that are meaningful. This is often when individuals are increasingly established in their careers, they might be raising children, and potentially involved in community organizations. According to Erickson, if a person does not achieve a sense of contributing to those around them, they will increasingly have a sense of stagnation set in, where they feel like they aren't making their life count or making this world a better place. Being sensitive to this important life stage is helpful to put in perspective the important role that OTs play in helping individuals at this stage to regain employment skills or parenting skills or other related skills that help them feel as if they are an important contributor to their families and societies and their workplaces, despite having a disability or recovering from an injury. The final stage in Erikson's model for psychosocial development is the integrity versus despair stage. This stage is referred to as the late adulthood stage and includes individuals 60 years plus. This is when a person begins doing more reflection on their life and asking the question, what did I contribute? How do others see my life accomplishments? And was my life meaningful? Positive perceptions to these types of questions lead to a sense of self-respect and a sense of respect from others. However, if they feel like their life was wasted or meaningless, a sense of despair might be the result. OTs can be integral in continuing to assist individuals in this stage and their families maintain and develop occupations that promote a sense of respect and integrity for older adults by tapping into what gives them a sense of respect and meaningful contribution in this stage of life. Now let's look at a quick visual breakdown with some memorization tips that I think will help us remember all this information. Here we've got the 8 stages listed and the corresponding corresponding age. Remember, this is an approximate age. And then conflict, essentially what's the stage name and the conflict that's happening. I always find that if I know the first letter of the stage, I can generally remember whatever else I need to know about the stage. So I came up with this little mnemonic here, and I shouldn't say little because it's kind of clunky here, but if you're a mnemonic person, this might help you. This goes like this: today a four-eyed goose in my truck showed duck. Geese instinctively regard chickens inferior salmonella distributors. Hopefully that helps just cue you on the first letter of that stage to make it easy in case you need to jot it down to remember it, maybe during a test or if you're trying to refer back to it for whatever reason. Generally speaking, I find pictures easier to remember for the long run. However, key questions sometimes can be helpful as well. So whatever works for you, I've got both here listed. Stage 1, 0 to 2, trust versus mistrust. And this is particularly asking the question, can I trust people? And I think of a baby asking the question, is my caregiver or caregivers safe? You know, are they going to keep me safe? Can I trust them? The second stage is autonomy versus shame and doubt. Here the key question is it okay to be more independent? This is when they're learning all these new ways to be more independent, getting dressed more independently, being potty trained. And so potty training is the picture that I think of with this. Stage 3 is initiative versus guilt. And I always think of a starting line because it's asking, can I initiate things and take risks? Is it okay for me to start and be an effector in my environment? Stage 4 is industry versus inferiority. And I always think of a kind of a level playing field here between kids. Do they feel like they're on equal footing with peers? Or another way to think of it is, can I keep up with my peers? In stage 5, we're heading into adolescence and we're thinking about identity versus role confusion. The reason I have a dude with long scraggly hair and a guitar is because those are the things that I was doing kind of during those years as I was developing this sense of who I am and with whom I belong. Those are the questions that adolescents are asking. Who am I and with whom do I belong? Now, stage 6 is intimacy versus isolation. And I've got a heart here because the key question is, can I love and be loved? Keeping in mind that this is often when individuals are starting to pursue deeper friendships, including romantic relationships. Stage 7 is middle adulthood, and this is generativity versus stagnation. And the key question is, what do I want to contribute to this world? You know, what do I want to give to my family and give to my society? Stage 8, this is integrity versus despair. And I use the question, what's my legacy? I think of a soldier's folded flag that represents what they've left behind, which is the sacrifice and the protection of the freedom of their country. I hope that's helpful. And then finally, let's not forget about goose. Thank you so much for joining me on the OT Minute today. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new videos coming out. I hope you have an occupation-filled day, and we'll see you in the next video.